to take attendance, and in that roll call vote, please also, please vote by indicating present, and if you approve of holding the meeting electronically. We need to vote to approve the holding of this meeting by electronic means. So, Mary Ann, if you'll please take a roll call vote, and those that are present and approve of that, please indicate by saying present and approve.
Chair Pereira,
Present and approve.
Vice Chair Harris, Mr. Wilson,
Present and approve.
Councilman Fennell,
Present and approve.
Dr. Orgain, Mr. Strouser, Ms. Hibbler.
Present and approve.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Let me read a short statement. Pursuant to the governor's sorry, we have some feedback. Pursuant to the governor's executive order number 16, 34, and 51 regarding public meetings and social distancing and the need to limit the community spread of COVID-19, members of the Planning Commission may participate by electronic means, and the meeting will be live streamed to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the members and citizens of Gallatin. We'll start with a short invocation. If you'll please bow your heads. Lord, we ask that you watch over these proceedings and help us to make decisions in the best interest of our community. Please watch over members of our community who may be ill or in fear of the current situation. And please be with us and guide us and teach us. In the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen. If you'll please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I don't have a flag in my office, but Johnny, I see the flag right behind you. So, Johnny, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? You're there in front of the flag.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, is justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Secretary, do you have prior minutes to submit for approval? Johnny, I believe your microphone is muted.
Well, I didn't press the button here. I'm sorry. Yes, I got minutes dated May the 18th. I move we approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Wilson and a second by Councilman Fennell. Any discussion on those minutes? Seeing none, we'll take a vote to approve. Miriam, will you take the vote by roll call, please?
Chair Pereira,
Approved. Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Councilman Fennell,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Aye.
It passed 4-0.
Okay. Motion is approved. Minutes are approved. We'll move on to the consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda tonight, items 1 through 7. But the applicant has requested that item number 4 be pulled off of the consent agenda and deferred. Do we have anybody in the public who wishes to have any other item pulled from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda for discussion?
If you're joining us in the audience gallery, if you have access to a computer, if you would raise your hand and let us know that you'd like to speak on any of the consent agenda items. I see a couple of familiar names in here. And this is for, yes, John.
Just for the benefit of those in the public, I don't know if they're pulled up, if they have the agenda in front of them. Should we read the names of the consent agenda items out loud? Or does everybody have access to that agenda?
The agenda is available on the website. Also, as the items come through, they'll be displayed on the PowerPoint presentation here. We do have one member of the public, Vivian Huntsman, who has raised her hand. I'm going to open up your microphone, Vivian, and allow you to talk on consent agenda items. Vivian, your line has been unmuted. Ms. Huntsman? Ms. Huntsman, I've also unmuted Kathy Maxwell. Ms. Huntsman, if this is about the fence variance to the BZA, we can address that with the chair's permission under other business at the, would be item 12C of the agenda. You can, if we can't get your audio working, Ms. Huntsman, you can email me at josh.king@galatontn.gov. Last three, 695. Ms. Huntsman, if you email me, I know we've been in communication earlier today and early last week. If you email me, josh.king@galatontn.gov, we can add you as agenda item 12C. And while the meeting's going on, we can figure out what the audio problem is between us at the moment.
So the consent agenda items, I'm just going to read through them very quickly rather than just stating 1 through 7. The items that we're talking about in the consent agenda are item number 1 is some surety renewals and extensions to the city of Gallatin. Item number 2 is a Montgomery office final master development plan. Item number 3 is the Sumner County Administration building parking lot. It's a final master development plan. Item number 4 is the paddock at Kennesaw Farms, which is to be deferred. Item number 5 is the re-subdivisions of lot 51 through 54 at Last Plantation, Fairview, phase 1. And item number 6 is the Domino's Pizza site plan. And item number 7 is the Meadow Glen at Fairway Farms, section 1. So I just wanted to clarify what the items are on the consent agenda, which we typically vote on as one item. And we'll officially open the public comment. If there's anyone who wishes to speak about one of those 7 items, please indicate by raising your hand electronically. Josh, do we have anyone raising their hand?
Chair Puryear, I've been in touch with Ms. Huntsman. She would like to address the Planning Commission as item 12C to discuss a BZA variance she was granted for her fence. And Bill, do we have to amend the agenda to add that item? Or because it's under other business, it can be added?
Excuse me, that could be added under other business at that time. At this time, if the board, if the Planning Commission is willing to approve the consent agenda, please also keep in mind that as part of the approval, you're asking for deferral on item number 4. So you would approve all the consent items with the exception of number 4, which would be deferred.
Very well. Do we have any other anyone else who wishes to speak in the public comment section regarding the consent agenda? Josh?
No one else has emailed, phone called, or indicated they'd like to speak on the consent agenda items.
Very good. I'll now close the public comment on the consent agenda. Is there any member of the commission who would like to have any of the items 1 through 7 pulled from the consent agenda and placed on the regular agenda? Seeing none, I will make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as one item with the exception of item number 4, which will be deferred.
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Fennell. Any discussion on the consent agenda items? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Marion, please show us a roll call vote.
Chair Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Councilman Fennell,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Aye.
All right, passes 4-0.
Thank you. Consent agenda is approved. We'll
Mr.
move on.
Puryear,
Yes, sir.
we have a special presentation that we accidentally skipped over from GNRC to update the Planning Commission on the status of Plan Gallatin, our updated comprehensive plan. And we have Mary Turner with GNRC here to present 3 quick slides.
I apologize. That was listed up there and I skipped right over it. Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Turner.
Okay. Thank you all for letting me join this evening. I know you're eager to get to the agenda. Real quick, I'm going to share my screen so we'll be able to view these slides. One minute. Okay, so as Josh mentioned, I'm just joining tonight to give a very brief overview of where Plan Gallatin is, how it's been progressing, and where we're heading next. We've been in the scenario planning phase for the past few months. The public input during the scenario planning phase is going to provide an opportunity for residents to learn more about Gallatin's growth trends and to learn about how different scenarios can impact their quality of life. In accordance with the guidelines provided by the CDC and the Tennessee governor, we've had to cancel in-person meetings and workshops that were scheduled. So we've shifted to virtual workshops, some virtual meetings, and other virtual input opportunities to continue our work on Plan Gallatin. I have on the screen, and I'm going to give a quick overview of the input opportunities and activities that have occurred virtually over the past 2 months. On June 4th, a workshop on the Gallatin growth scenarios was held. The city and GNRC hosted this workshop to share and discuss how different scenarios for how Gallatin could grow. Mayor Brown gave opening remarks, and John Puryear spoke about the importance of Plan Gallatin. Thank you, John, for your presentation on June 4th. That was very much appreciated. Approximately 100 participants listened to this presentation live, and about 127 have since listened to the recorded presentation that's on the Plan Gallatin website. Following the June 4th presentation, a survey was shared for residents to react to that presentation. Since that survey was shared, about 64 respondents have weighed in on their preferred growth scenarios for Gallatin. We also held community conversations, small roundtables following that presentation. About 30 residents have participated in those facilitated conversations with the Gallatin planning staff and GNRC to talk with other members of the community and reflect on their growth and development preferences after listening to that. So far, we've been pleased with the amount of engagement that we've been able to have virtually, and we hope that'll continue. We're going to put out a visual preference survey shortly. I'm going to touch on that again in just a moment. In the current time period, GNRC staff has been working on drafting the Plan Gallatin document. So an initial draft of all the appendices has been completed, and staff is now working on drafting some of the text of the plan. As I mentioned just a moment ago, an upcoming visual preference survey will be released this week. The visual preference survey will be an opportunity for residents to share how the city should look through a series of photos. The survey's been drafted so far with SurveyMonkey, and it's just be about 30 images long, and Gallatin planning staff and GNRC have selected some of those images that'll be in that visual preference survey. In the survey, residents will be able to indicate whether an image is suitable or unsuitable for the community with a sliding bar. Moving forward, GNRC is going to continue working on drafting the plan text, and as needed, we'll be engaging virtually still with you, the commission members, and the community throughout this plan drafting process over the next month. If you all have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's all that I have to share. As I promised, I didn't want to take up too much of your time this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And I know y'all are working under tough conditions, having to do it remotely. Good work.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the regular agenda items, and we have items number 8, 9, 10, and 11 on the regular agenda. That will be the Bledsoe Springs are items 8 and 9, and the Bella Vista will be item number 10 and 11. And all 4 of those items will come with a public comment. We may combine the public comments for 8 and 9 and also for 10 and 11 because they're different issues, but they're the same issue but different voting items. So if you're here tonight to speak to one of those, there will be an opportunity, a public comment for each of those items. We'll start up with item number 8, which is resolution number 2020-093, Bledsoe Springs annexation and plan of service. Jillian, are you handling that item?
I am, yes.
Go ahead, Jillian.
So this is item number 8 is specifically for the annexation and plan of service for Bledsoe Springs. It is for 44.79 acres located north of Hartsfield Pike and east of Airport Road. This item, as well as the next item, were discussed at the Planning Commission at the last meeting, and they were deferred by the applicant so that they could take into account some of the Planning Commission's comments and concerns. If you now go to the next slide, get to the actual plan. So this is the plan that they came back with. You have seen this at a work session. So it is still 102 attached townhome lots, 102 single family detached residential lots on about 45, little under 45 acres of land. They are requesting the zoning of R6 PRD, which is one of our planned residential development zonings. The PRDs allow the developer to propose the lot layout and architecture for Planning Commission and City Council consideration. They are providing 35% open space as is required with the zoning. That's shown through your buffer yards, water quality areas, and open space tracts. Please take into account that they are showing their buffer yards in open space tracts. We are starting to encourage this versus being on the actual lot. So that kind of pulls the lots away from the boundaries of the land. The density proposed for this development is still 4.6 units per acre. The character area for this part of town recommends 2 to 5 units per acre. So this PMDP is within this range. It's in the upper range of that, but it is within the range that is consistent with the comp plan. I remember at the last meeting, commissioners did ask about the size of lots of the neighboring subdivision in Sunnymead. The typical lot was 19,000 to 20,000 square feet. You get to the cul-de-sacs, the bigger ones are closer to 25,000. Again, that zoning is R15, so those are bigger than the zoning that they have, but just to kind of give you those numbers. This property will be accessed off Hartsfield Pike. There'll be 2 new roadways, and they will also connect out to a stub out point in the Sunnymead subdivision to the east. The single family construction, if you want to go to the next slide. Next slide, please. There's a graphic, and then into the single family home constructions, which will be 70% masonry or cementitious materials, and then the townhomes, which will be a similar makeup. The planning department recommends approval of the resolution. You did have a public comment last time, but you had made mention at the work session at the last meeting that you would likely want to open it up again, especially since we have a couple revisions on this plan. If you want to go back a couple slides to the site plan itself. So the primary change they made from last meeting to this meeting was they did move 2 sets of townhome units south of the stream away from the closest area of an existing industrial business. So EDA did take a look at that as well. So that was the main change that they did. The density did not change. And I believe the applicant is in attendance. So they'll be there to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a representative for the applicant present? If so, please state your name for the record.
Andy Leith with Greenlee Design.
Go ahead, Andy. Do you have anything to add to what Jillian's presented?
No, sir, I don't have anything to add in addition to what we discussed at the work session and what Jillian presented. I know the big topic is going to be the density that we are requesting. As Jillian stated, it's within the community character area. However, it is on the high side, and we understand that. We've tried to do some things here that to offer up some of those concessions in exchange for the density, the buffers in open space, and putting those up against the existing residential. And considering that we are sandwiched up against the industrial area, which in my opinion would allow for a little bit tighter density from the R15 that's to the east of us. And in addition to that, the railroad right-of-way is not included in our open space counts. And so once that situation is taken care of, then we'll be above and beyond the 35% required. Because we intend to put 100% of that railroad right-of-way into the open space, greenway easement, utility easement, whatever else the city might like. So where we're at with that is shared with staff today. There is correspondence between my clients, the owner's lawyer and CSX, and we're really close to getting that squared away.
All right. If you have nothing else to add, Andy, we're going to hold a public comment, but we'll give you a chance to respond to, if the public raises some questions, would you come back on and try to provide some responses to their questions?
We would be happy to, yes, sir.
Okay. So, Jillian, when you presented this, you were presenting 8 and 9 together. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So just to explain to the public, I will open a public comment. Items 8 and 9 are both on the same issue. That's Bledsoe Springs. But item 8, we have to vote on them separately. Item 8 will be a vote for the annexation and plan of service. Item 9 will be a vote regarding the rezoning and this specific preliminary master development plan. But we'll hold a public comment open on both items, 8 and 9. So is there anyone in the public, at this time I'll open the public comment. Is there anyone who would like to speak in regards to items 8 or 9, which is Bledsoe Springs?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Pascal or Michelle Javance. Your line's been unmuted.
Thank you, Josh. This is Michelle Javance. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Ms. Javance.
Thank you. Yes, I had a couple of comments, questions actually about both the annexation and the roadways, the 2 new roadways. So it looks like there's, especially the roadway to the east, does that adjacent property owner, it looks like there's a reduced buffer along the roadway. And I was wondering if that adjacent property owner is aware of that and if they're okay with having a roadway near their property with a reduced buffer. I can't tell if the other roadway on the western side also has a reduced buffer, but that was just a question I had, a concern for that property owner that's next to that. And then also I had a question about the annexation plan of service where there's additional police and fire required, and I was wondering when that will be required to be built. We've seen that come up a couple of times with different developments in that area, and I'm wondering if that's going to cause a tax increase in the near future for all of us Gallatin citizens. So I would appreciate if we could have those comments discussed. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michelle. Josh, do we have anyone else who would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, no one else has indicated they'd like to speak on this item. If you could raise your hand if you're a member of the audience. No one has indicated they'd like to speak on this item.
All right, seeing no one else, I will close the public comment on items 8 and 9. And open it for questions from members of the commission for either the applicant or for staff. Well, I'll kickstart the discussion by saying that the layout itself, I think, is a good layout for property. My only concern is I just don't want to look at it in a vacuum. I'm looking at the surrounding properties to the south, west, and north, and they're all larger lots. And I think we do need to take into consideration that those lots to the south are even larger than the minimum that they could be in those neighborhoods. So my approach to this, I just want to make sure we're not spot zoning, is the density. I'm not comfortable with the density of 4.6 units per acre. The plan, the comprehensive plan calls for a density of somewhere between 2 and 5. And I'm trying to look at everything around it when I'm considering that. The average of 2 and 5 is a density of 3.5. I think that they should be allowed to consider the CSX right-of-way, which is going to become part of their property, as part of it, and then calculate it out and come up with an overall density of 3.5, including the ground of the CSX right-of-way. It's not what they're looking for. They're asking for 4.6, but it's certainly higher than what they currently have in the county. That's just my 2 cents worth. But we need input from other members of the commission.
I agree with you on the density part of that, just because of surrounding areas. Did you hear me?
Yes, yes, thank you, Alon. Sorry,
Okay, I just make
thought I was muted.
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, just the density, just compared to the character of the other places that surround it. I want to keep that.
Since there's only 4 of us, I'm gonna put everybody on the spot. Johnny, you first. Do you have any opinion on the matter?
I could go either way. It doesn't matter.
Councilman Fennell, do you
Concerned
weigh-
about the density.
I'm sorry, I was talking over you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, concerned about the density. I agree with what Chairman said and Ms. Edwards said.
So that we don't have a motion on the floor yet, but before we go to a motion on the floor, let me give Mr. Leith an opportunity to respond to the public comment that we received, as well as kind of the discussion that he's heard from the commission members.
Andy, if you hang on 1 second, Dr. Orgain has joined the meeting. I'd like him to be able to weigh in on this issue as well.
No problem.
I'm kind of like Mr. Wilson. I could go either way, but I think we should caution on the side of the adjacent landowners for sure. And I think it's important to hear what Andy says. I know they're looking for maximum return, and I know they have a lot of investment that they have to make, that if we're too aggressive, you know, they may not be able to justify the project at all. But yeah, let's hear what Andy has to say.
Thank you, Dr. Orgain. Andy, are you online?
I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
Sir.
So whenever I take projects like this on, you know, I'm born and raised in Sumner County. I don't live in Gallatin, but Gallatin is my bread and butter, and I want Gallatin to be the best it can be because that's going to ensure the success of my business for years to come. So when we present projects, my projects for Gallatin are not one and dones, as I might represent in other cities. And I say that to be, when we evaluated the densities, when we evaluated the product to put here on this tract of land, we really tried to put forth something that everyone can be proud of. So in addressing of the density to the areas to the south. You're talking about areas that are south of Hartsville Pike, that are along Hillsdale Drive, Robertson Road, Holloman Lane. And yes, those lots are larger. They're all on septic, or majority are on septic down there. The bulk of our subdivision, and I don't know what's up on your guys' screen right now because I'm trying to navigate through my own computer. The bulk of the subdivision is over 600 feet off the right of way on Highway 25 there. So I really feel like that the owners on the south side of 25 will be impacted very minimally due to the density of the subdivision. And when I say impacted minimally, I'm not necessarily talking about traffic. We all know that this subdivision is going to increase traffic. I mean, anytime you take a farm like this and put houses on it, it's going to increase traffic. We can't argue against that. We are offering up improvements to help alleviate the congestion that it might cause and the inconvenience. But as far as from an aesthetic point of view, those guys on the south side of 25, the bulk of the subdivisions over 600 feet away, with buffer yards that will be planted to screen them from the majority of the subdivision. To our west, we have the railroad right-of-way and the industrial park. And to the east, we do have larger lots, and that's why we provided the bigger buffer over there on that. And when I say larger buffer, I know that we're providing the required buffer, but however, we did not shrink the minimum lot size. So in a sense, if I'm making sense to you guys, it's a little bit larger lots over there if we were to put that buffer back into the lot, as opposed to leaving it in open space. So we've tried to consider the neighborhood adjacent to us, and with the screening, with the larger land areas up against those areas to the east, and trying to minimally impact it. As we stated in the work session, the price point we're trying to hit here for these homes is in the 250 range. This location was targeted due to its close proximity to Airport Road and the industrial center. So we're trying to provide a product that we feel like is lacking in the community right now. If we lose density, it is a sad fact that we will not be able to maintain that price point just due to the cost of construction. So it's not necessarily going to kill the project, but it definitely will impact the price point of the homes. And to answer the questions brought up by Michelle, the drive to the east would be more than happy to scoot that over. That is up against a duplex lot. And we were trying to space it out, existing driveways and existing accesses on the highway there. And it could be scooted over further away if it pleased the engineering department. The fire and police, it is our understanding that with the latest annexation of the Woolhawk project, that those services are going to be required regardless of this project. So I'll still hang out here if you guys have any more questions.
Thank you, Andy. I just want to reiterate what I said in the beginning, is that looking at it in a vacuum, you've done a good job with this area and you've done a good layout. But just my opinion, I have to stick, when I look to the comprehensive plan, it says intent of this area is to maintain residential uses, which you have, preserve existing tree cover. Well, I don't know if you have or not. You probably have on the CSX boundary up there. The tree cover that's there, we pretty well will be maintaining it, with the exception of where the existing house is located. Okay. Well, I mean, it's hard to preserve tree cover when you are going in and doing an entire development. I understand it, but I'll just cut to the chase. The one bullet point is it says accommodate infill developments that complement the scale, setback, and style of existing adjacent homes. And that's the one I'm just having difficulty with on the east and the west. I'm not real concerned about the south, which, by the way, for everybody's benefit, I kind of missed that. North on this map points to the right. So it's the east side is the one I'm most concerned with. And then a couple of large lots on the west. Andy's right. The ones on the south are across a major road. It's not impacting them very much, but I'm very concerned about the impact you're going to have on the neighborhood to the east of this development. And with that, I'll stop talking and let
I
someone
just
else.
wish, I'm sorry, John. I just wish there was some neighbors or some landowners out in the area that give us their opinion of what they think. I mean, I value their opinion right there. And is there anybody in the audience that is here listening to this meeting that is actually a landowner in the area, a resident?
Councilman Fennell, no one who is in the Zoom meeting has indicated such, and I'm checking to Facebook to see if there's anyone on Facebook that's a resident of that neighborhood. If you could indicate so and join us on the Zoom meeting for official public comment, or you can alternately email josh.king@gallatin.tn.gov.
And Andy, I'm not against this development. Density concerns me a little bit. Being here in business in this town for 36 years, growth has happened that I've seen happen here every day since I've been here, and it's going to continue to grow. And, you know, you're not going to stop it. I think the main thing is that we grow in the right way, and that's the only thing that really concerns me is about a little bit of the density in this particular development.
Hey, John,
Yes, Dr. Orgain?
you may have studied this enough. What does it do to the total number of units by cutting it from 4-point to 3-point? Or Andy, a rough number.
Sure, give me 1 second and I can tell you that.
Commissioner Orgain, that would be roughly reduce it from about 204 units to 160 or so.
And Bill, is that based on 3.5?
Yes, sir. I assumed about 46 acres, including the railroad right of way, their portion of the railroad right of way, 46, 47 acres. That gets you in the neighborhood of 350 or 150 to 165, 155 to 165, somewhere in there.
So what would happen if we decreased it at the adjacent larger lot landowners and possibly increase the density a little bit on the interior?
I mean, we're open to compromise, and that may be a good compromise point there, which would be to provide some larger lots, maybe some R15 PRD style lots up against the eastern boundary, which would be the existing subdivision. As far as a price point on the homes, and of course, I'm not a land appraiser, and I don't even try to be one, but I do not feel like that this will devalue those properties to the east of us. If you're strictly comparing lot sizes, then yes, they're not the same lot size by no stretch of the imagination. But for price points, I really don't feel like that would be devaluing the properties.
Mr. Wilson or Mrs. Hibler, do you want to weigh in?
I like the plan, and I'll probably vote for the plan like it is.
I'd like to see maybe how Andy was talking about changing the lot size that are adjacent to the existing area, existing neighborhoods, I mean.
You know, Mrs. Hibler and I had the opportunity to serve on a board together, another board, Shalom, and they did a study in the community, getting input from the residents of the community. And one of the number one concerns was the need for affordable housing. So I understand what you're trying to accomplish here, Andy, and I don't want to be an obstructionist to that goal. I just want to follow the comp plan the best I can, and that is accommodate the surrounding homes. So I'm inclined right now, I would have to vote against this plan as it is. But this is just my opinion. If you were to bring back a plan that created larger R15 style housing along that eastern property boundary, I would be okay with a density of 3.75, which would bring you somewhere down from, instead of going down from 204 down to 160, it puts you in the 180, maybe even 185 homes. And I hope that you can make that work for your price point. But I'm just one opinion here. But as it stands right now, if we have to make a motion and a vote, I would have to vote against this. So I guess I'll leave that to you. Do you want me to proceed to take it to a vote? We've had a lot of discussion, or would you like to defer and come back with a different plan?
I'm conferring with my client right at this moment. And the truth of the matter is, and you guys have been a part of Gallatin enough to know that, Gallatin can sustain a pretty high price point on new homes. So it's not that we couldn't make this development work. It's just we couldn't make it work and keep the homes priced where Gallatin would like them priced at. And I say Gallatin, meaning some of the things with the EDA to provide that workforce housing. So I'm definitely not trying to be argumentative here, because we can make a subdivision work with 150 lots, 150 units, but they wouldn't be $250,000.
Yeah. And my suggestion would be that if you were to change anything, it would just be taking that row of lots that are along the eastern boundary and just making those wider lots. They don't have to be deeper lots, but if they're wider lots, it gives a little bit of a transition to the adjacent properties. And that's really the only stretch we're talking about is, well, and I can see if those were wider, it might even be that you could go a little higher than 3.75, maybe even push 4 units. But that's the stretch that's of concern.
No, and we don't mind to do that. So if the planning commission, understanding that if we could do larger lots along the eastern boundary line, it probably would mean our townhome to single family ratio would change a little bit. If the body is not opposed to that ratio changing, the same price would still be there.
Andy, what was the square footage per unit on your single family townhome?
I believe, Councilman Fennell, it's in the neighborhood of 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
Andy, when you said that the ratio of townhomes to single family would change, are you suggesting that you'll have to add more townhomes than are currently shown, or are you simply saying that the removal of some single family lots will change that ratio?
Possibly a mixture of both.
No.
To be quite, honest with you guys, if we're trying to hit a certain density, this project is about 44.8 acres. And I think that the railroad right-of-way is going to come in about 1.5 acres. That's 44.8 plus 3.75. That puts us around 173 units at 3.75.
Okay. Well, I think the ball's kind of in your court. Andy, do you want me to call for a vote, or would you like to redraw and defer?
These virtual meetings certainly make some things convenient, but other things inconvenient. I'm texting my
Chair,
client.
while he's figuring that out, I wanted to mention that we did receive a memo today from the fire chief, who indicated that if an additional fire station is needed in this side of town to serve not just this development, of course, but other developments. He gave some details on the response time from the primary stations that serve this area. And he suggested that the city begin planning for building another fire station in this area that would be able to be the primary service station for this development and some other developments, of course, that we've recently reviewed. The city does own a piece of property in the industrial park just to the west, and they have intents to build a fire hall there, although it's not funded.
Let me ask staff a question. We have items 8 and 9 are open right now. Is it too unorthodox to table these items, move on to items 10 and 11 for the benefit of the other, the public who's waiting to speak, and then come back and take a vote? Can we temporarily hold an item to let Andy have a chance to confer with his client?
Look, I may be
Attorney on there?
right here. I've heard back from him, and he's listening. I don't know, Josh, if you can see if that registers in on how you can see if people can just listen without you knowing it. But he is listening to the meeting right now.
Andy, this is Josh. I can promote him to a panelist to allow him to speak on his own behalf if you tell me who he is.
Okay. His name is Brad Edwards. Probably looking for a phone number of 615-389-7695.
Okay, I have unmuted. I have 6154 is the only phone call-in number I have as an attendee.
Okay. That may 6154, you said?
All it is showing is 16154.
Okay, that's probably not him. Okay, well, here's the thing is, of course, we've already waited a month with the last deferral. He's serious about this to the point that, we've already had a traffic study. We've already done the hydrologic determinations. We've already done all those things that I typically argue against doing at this stage, because he does want to move forward with this development. So that he's serious about it. And he's saying he's got bad service right now. I know this is somewhat of a negotiation, and I'm not trying to be a used car salesman here. I'm not that kind of person. No offense, Councilman Fennell. But he said that if the Planning Commission was agreeable to 185 units, he would be willing to knock it from 205, 204 down to 185 right now. He feels like he can still make the price points work. And that would roughly be a density of 4.
Well, it sounds like the applicant's certainly willing to work with our concerns, and I'm not sure that we can vote. I think you have to redraw it. I don't think we can vote on an item just with the promise of knocking it down. Can we? Need some guidance from staff.
Well, we want to vote on a density of 4 instead of 4.6.
And John, I can support that.
Yeah. Commissioners, you can place additional conditions on this design that would end up reducing density, but you also may want to specify that in that reduction of density, that it's based on the gross acreage of the property, including the railroad right of way. And then you can specify certain size minimum lots that you want to apply on the east side of the property, and or any mix in the types of units that you have. So to maybe allow additional townhouse units, you can add those as specific conditions, but they do need to be, very specific in your discussion and or your motion as to what those parameters would be. And it will require the applicant to then redesign or reposition, I should say, some lots and or types of units. So those lots, for example, on the east side now may end up being maybe twice as wide as they are now, or you'd have half as many lots on that side. And in exchange, some of the other single family lots on the interior may end up being townhome lots.
So to help put this in perspective, we can cut the lots along the east property line in half, in a sense, double the width. And I would still have to cut out a few more units within the development.
Would you have, Andy, would you have to put more townhouses like in the area that they currently are, or would you reconfigure other things?
So if you guys approve a density of 4 tonight and ask me to double the size of the lots along the eastern property line, I would not have to add anything. I would actually still have to take out a few units. So I wouldn't be adding back any townhomes, so to speak. I'd have to, somewhere I would need to take out a few more units to get down to that 4 units per acre.
Okay. Now, if I understand correctly, those specific amendments would have to be applied to a separate vote on item number 9. Number 8 is just the vote to annexation and plan of service. Am I correct on that, staff?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion regarding item number 8, which is only the annexation and plan of service for the property.
Okay, I move we approve item number 8.
I second it.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Wilson, and it was seconded by Dr. Regain. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for a roll call vote. Mary Ann, if you'll please take the vote.
Chair Purrier,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Councilman Fennell, Dr. Orgain,
Yes.
Ms. Hibbler.
Yes.
It passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the item number 8 is approved.
I think is Mr. Strother on the line? I think I see his name.
Yes, I am.
There he is.
Albert,
I
did
voted.
you?
I voted yes.
Sorry, Mr. Strother. Okay, that makes it 6-0.
Okay, very good. So item number 8, annexation and plan of service is approved. I'll entertain a motion on item number 9. If y'all would like, I'll craft the motion, but I'll leave it to someone else if they'd like to take a shot at crafting that very specific motion. All right, let me pull up item number 9 and look at staff's conditions. And Andy, you did not have any issues with any of the 10 staff conditions that were placed on that?
No, sir.
Okay. Then I will make a motion to approve, but adding condition 11, which states that the single-family residences along the eastern property boundary will be reduced by 50% by making their lot width double what they are. That's condition 11. Condition 12 is that a redesign will be required to be brought back before the Planning Commission with a total density not exceeding 4.0, and the additional townhomes will only be added if that's the only way to get the density of 4.0. I hope that's clear enough. What I'm trying to state is that, Andy, you think that you'll probably have to remove some extra lots, create more open space. But if it tips one way or the other and you have to add a townhome building to make it work, then you'll add one more townhome building. Does
Yes.
everybody understand that motion?
I got all of it, but that last part, Andy had stated that because he'd have to remove more, he wouldn't have to put a townhome additionals in.
I believe am I still muted, unmuted?
No, you're
No,
good.
you're good.
Okay, I believe that if you will allow us to maintain the 102 townhomes, that we would make up the rest up to that density of 4 with the single family.
Okay. The only reason I put that in there, Mr. Hibbler, is I know that we're asking Andy to do math on the fly on a really large development, and I didn't want to box him too tight in there. So we had items, I had added 2 conditions, number 11 and 12. And part of that 12th condition was that you do have to bring a revised PMDP back before the planning commission.
And since I'm learning still, do we have to put that part about the roadway? He was going to check with engineering about the 2 roads. He was talking about shifting them. Andy was, sorry.
Oh, you can add that condition, Ms. Hibler.
All right.
If you'd like to state that as a condition.
Okay, I would like to add the condition of the representative speaking with the engineering department to get the best location for the 2 new roadways that are coming with the development.
Okay,
The end.
thank you. And condition 14, just to put it on the record to help Andy, is that the CSX right-of-way abandonment will be counted in toward his total acreage when he's calculating a density of 4.0 units per acre. So we have a motion to approve with 14 conditions. Any discussion on those?
Chairman, I'm a little confused on number 12. So a new PMDP is supposed to come to Planning Commission before they go to City Council?
Maybe I'm off base on that one.
Because this would go on to City Council.
If I can jump in,
What could happen is that if you approve this plan with these, what I got is 3 additional conditions, is that this plan would be approved and could be modified again by the city council, but also could be, but not required to be modified again when the FMDP comes in. My guess is that there will be a PMDP amendment associated with that FMDP most likely, and that would be an opportunity to make some refinements.
You know, I'll amend my condition 12 about it having to come back before the planning commission, because we have a member of the city council here on this body, and Sean understands the intent of what we're doing, and he'll keep it in line at city council. Councilman Snell, you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I have a
So,
question.
yes, Dr. Regain?
Is this the abandoned rail line that goes to Westmoreland?
Yes,
Yes,
it
sir.
is.
If we approve this, does this prevent us in the future of having a greenway that goes from Gallatin to Westmoreland?
The applicant's already proposing to have a greenway easement on the portion that they'll have. They're not planning on developing it.
Perfect. Thank you, Andy.
we try.
That's a great idea though, isn't it, Dr. Orgain?
We're already rolling with it. Hopefully.
So I'll go ahead and call for the vote. Bill, you said you'd only heard 3 additional comments that we added onto this or conditions. The only reason I added the 14th was just wanted to put it in writing for the applicant's benefit, that we make sure that he gets to count his CSX railroad abandonment as part of his overall space. But if
Yeah, I believe that's a condition, and that's also shown on the plan, the revised plan. I know there's been some confusion, and I wanted just to summarize the additional conditions that y'all had talked about and included in your motion, if that's okay.
Please
And
do.
let me know if I'm wrong here as well, because I was trying to write this down while y'all were saying that. Is condition 11 would be that the lots along the east property boundary shall be twice the width that's shown on the plan. So I'm not sure what they're, I guess, 60-foot wide lots, so they'd have to be 120-foot lots. Or if they're 50, they'd have to be 100 feet. Essentially,
Yes.
You're getting half as many lots on that east side. That would be condition number 11. Condition number 12 is that the total density shall not exceed 4 units per acre. additional townhomes may be added to allow for up to 4 units per acre. Condition number 13 is that the item be brought back to the planning commission, in which you've decided that you wanted to strike or remove from your motion. So we'll remove that. And then item number 14, which will now become item number 13, was Ms. Hibbler's amendment to the motion to add a condition that the roadway, and I think we're talking about the easterly roadway, be moved further to the west, to away from the adjacent property boundary, and that would be up to engineering to determine what would be the appropriate distance from the intersection there. I think it's Robertson Road. So I believe that's what Andy was doing, is trying to move that intersection as far away from Robertson Road so there wouldn't be an offset that would not comply with the subdivision regulations.
Yes, Bill, you summarized the conditions very well, except number 12. I just want to be
Okay.
really clear that when I stated condition number 12, it was that in order to meet the density, he could add, if it was necessary, it might add up to 1 4-unit townhome building. I don't want to see 16 single-family lots get dropped and 4 4-unit townhome buildings get added.
Mr. Pereira, I had that condition 13 was to amend the motion to, or to speak to engineering about the new roadways, Ms. Hibbler, and 14 was to put the railroad right-of-way to be added to the total acreage. Am I wrong on that?
That is what we stated, yeah.
Okay.
So we've had a lot of discussion. I'll call for the vote. Mary Ann, if you'll, before I call for the vote, is everyone clear on the conditions, or does anyone have any questions?
I don't believe you got a second yet.
Yeah.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, so second, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Seconded by Johnny Wilson. Any discussion? Then Mary Ann, if you'll please call a roll call vote.
Chair Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson,
Aye.
Councilman Fennell, Dr. Orgain,
Yes.
Mr. Strouder, Mr. Strouder,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 10. 10 and 11 will be presented together as one, but we'll take separate votes on item 10 and 11. Item number 10 is the Bella Vista Comprehensive Plan Amendment. And then item number 11 will be the Bella Vista rezoning with preliminary master development plan. Who's presenting this item?
Dustin Shane, Gallatin Planning.
Go ahead, Dustin.
All right, so this first item, as stated, is the comprehensive plan amendment for the Bella Vista project. As you can see, it's located south of US 31, east of Airport Road. And if you'll take a look on your screen, I've called out the community character map for this area. And when I change the slide, you'll see that it's this southern portion of this kind of pie-shaped parcel here that we're going from Airport Road Industrial to suburban emerging residential. And the whole point behind that, as I explained at work session, was that the part of the property was outside the city limits when the comp plan was made. So now this is basically just rectifying, now that that piece has been annexed, to bring that character area map to be consistent across the parcel. So moving on, that's the first step. Here's the rezoning with the PMDP for Bella Vista. It's currently zoned agricultural residential, abutting some R15 areas. It's a proposal for 29 single-family lots, 2 open space tracts that encircle the property. These meet the PRD requirement of 2 3/4 acres of open space. It's got one public right-of-way with some traffic calming measures. The density for this one is much lower than the previous item. It's 2.33 units per acre. So it's pretty much a straightforward subdivision. This property, as I stated at work session, was approved at one time for a driving range by the BZA, but then rejected by the Planning Commission for that. We worked with the applicant on our concerns about the buffers and the open space. Those are now good. They're proposing to provide the stub out to the southern adjoining parcel. We are still asking for the stub out to the east to parcel 42 there. So that may be a point of contention. And then we're also putting a condition on there to reserve an access easement because the comp plan has the greenway coming through here. So we'd want to make sure that there was easement in place for that if that occurs one day. That's all I've got. Thank you. The applicant is here. It's Greenlit Design.
Andy, are you representing?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So hopefully we can make this one a lot easier. We're pretty well in agreement with everything except the stub out to parcel 42 still. And I'll explain my thinking behind that. Of course, we are coming in with low density or lower density here than most every other development coming through Gallatin right now. And that's what the developers want. They wanted larger lots. We completely understand the stub out to the rear. Of course, that would eliminate a cul-de-sac in the future. And do not mind giving that up whatsoever. But as shared at the work session, and Nick and I had a brief discussion on this, I just personally feel like giving up another 50 foot of land for a 2.5 acre tract would be a little unfair to my client. However, as I suggested to Nick, we do have open space there and probably have some stormwater controls in that area. We don't mind to put some ingress egress easements in that open space such that if that adjacent tract wanted to develop, that they could come across our open space if they could relocate and replace whatever we might need to achieve this development. Meaning if we had to put a detention pond there and they needed a road there, they could put a road there and relocate our detention pond further downhill. So that's the only thing here, that the shape of this, so the lots have a lot of square footage, but you know, our depth is limited to what it is. So asking me to give up another 50 foot of right of way is going to cost this guy, my client, a whole nother lot just for the benefit of one small tract of land.
Andy, somebody show me where 42 is anyway.
Dustin, you want to do that? Or somebody?
Yeah. Councilman Fennell, can you see that red circle on the screen?
I see it. That's
it.
Okay.
So we don't oppose them having access from our public road. We just feel like they should put their pound of flesh in, which would mean, you know, we'll provide the easements, but if they want to connect to it, then they'll have to possibly and probably relocate our stormwater controls.
Okay. Anything else to add, Andy?
No, sir. We're in agreement with the other comments.
Okay. Let me open it up to a public comment, and let me remind the public that we'll go ahead and take public comment on both items 10 and 11, which are both regarding Bella Vista. So is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in regards to items 10 or 11?
If you are attending in the audience gallery and would like to speak on this item, we ask that you raise your hand at this time. Mr. Chairman, at this time, no one has emailed or indicated that they'd like to speak on this item by raising their hand from the audience gallery.
Okay. At this point, seeing none, I will close the public comment and open it to questions from members of the commission.
Andy, did I understand you correctly to say as opposed to a cul-de-sac that there would be a additional egress or egress?
Yes, at the end of the cul-de-sac, we've set aside a 50-foot access to a larger tract of land in the rear. And most likely that's going to develop in a residential subdivision at some point in the near future. And that would alleviate the cul-de-sac at that point.
Thank you, sir.
So I'll lead off with some comments. I don't really see the need to provide the access to that 2.5 acre lot. I feel like it could develop from the main road just as easily. My question is, so I would remove that condition to provide that easement or access up there. But my question is, if somebody does develop to the east of this property or southeast of the property, who's responsible for the build out of that road from the cul-de-sac over to the property line? Isn't it typical that the stub out be built all the way over to the property line? And I guess that's a question to you, Andy. Why are y'all not building it over to the property line?
I don't have any reason that we did not show that other than we were not asked to, but I don't know. I know there's some that we've done in Twin Eagles where we've not built, we've just set aside the right of way. And this is not something like where we're just giving that adjacent property owner access to it just for him to bring his four-wheelers in and out. This is for future development.
Mr. Chairman, Brian Reifschneider with the City Engineering Department has indicated he'd like to discuss some of these issues. Brian? Let's see if this works.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. So Nick, I'm filling in for Nick tonight. He had a discussion with Andy, and Andy, I think we were under consensus you were okay with having that easement up front to access parcel 42 in the event that they did need to tie in there. They would incur the cost of relocating that stormwater feature and incur the cost of building a road to the property line and then developing from that point. Does that sound like a fair conversation that you and Nick had?
Yes, I read through the comments earlier today. I'm looking at them right now while we're talking. Comment number 2 doesn't go into that kind of detail though, Brian. It just says provide a future stub connection to parcel 42.
Yeah, and what happened was that conversation that you and Nick had happened after those comments went out, so.
So if you're okay with revising those comments to our conversation, I'm okay into agreeing to that.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, if we can make that addition when you do the vote. Now, as far as tying into the cul-de-sac, I think the city engineer at this point would just like to have that open and not actually have a stub built there. Not have it paved, but just have it reserved for future as that parcel to the south develops.
Okay, well, no, if engineering's fine with that, I just thought it was typical to build up to the property line.
Typically it would, but you know, that parcel 45, that's a big parcel. I don't know what's going to happen to that.
Okay.
You're looking at 104 acres. It could go industrial, it could go residential.
That's correct. It's a community character industrial, I believe.
Does anyone else on the commission have any comments, questions, or anything? Then I'll entertain a motion on item number 10, which item number 10 is just really straightforward. It's a cleanup of the comprehensive plan. It's leftover. It's really just housekeeping, in my opinion. I'll make a motion to approve item number 10, which is the.
Second.
Okay, we have a second by Ms. Sibler. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll ask Mary Ann to take a roll call vote for the approval of the motion to approve item number 10, the comprehensive plan amendment change.
Chair Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson, Councilman Fennell, Dr. Orgain,
Aye.
Mr. Strouder,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Aye.
It passes 6-0.
Do we have a second on that motion?
Yes, Alana.
As far as item number 11 is concerned, I'll entertain a motion from someone. All right, I'll make a motion to approve with staff's 15 conditions, but changing condition number 2 to reword it to say provide an easement for a future stub out connection to parcel 42, whereby the party exercising the easement would have to relocate the stormwater facilities if necessary.
I second it based on your recommendations.
Okay, a motion and a second by Albert Strauber. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Mary Ann, if you'll please call a roll call vote.
Chair Pereira,
Aye.
Mr. Wilson, Councilman Fennell,
Aye.
Dr. Orgain,
Yes.
Mr. Strouder,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Aye.
Passes 6-0.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to other business, and we have a couple of items on other business. We'll start out with Double Dogs Shopping Center architectural revision.
Yes, that is my item. So the applicant came to us asking for a quick review of the architecture as they finalize their plans to submit to the building department. On your screen is the approved architecture for the Double Dogs. If you could go next couple of slides to find the revision. This is just what was approved. And then here's what they would like to revise it to. They are on the call. If you have any questions, I believe it was because of the configuration of the inside of it that this roof configuration made more sense for them. It is predominantly brick, which is more so than it was with the previous version. Staff doesn't have any issues with it, but we wanted Planning Commission to take a look at it just because the roof changed. And I believe there's a couple applicants on here if you have any questions for them.
I'm sorry, did you say that the applicant is present and wanted to speak?
I don't know if they want to speak. Let's see.
I have unmuted Courtney, Bernardo, and Mark.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, this is Mark from MJM Architects.
Yep. This is David Bernardo with the owner with Double Dogs.
Yeah, we're available for any kind of questions. We're open if we had any kind of comments from you guys. But essentially, the reason we went through the redesign is there was some, we developed some slowdown due to the coronavirus, and we have been working on a redesign for the prototype for Double Dogs. And this is where we were kind of led to. And since we had the time, we were hoping to get this developed, this design approved to go in this location as well. This is the first location we would be doing for this one. And to clarify, the shops building, even though the rendering looks a little washed out, the shops building would not change. So the materials and the design, everything about the shops building will stay the same.
What type of, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Please go ahead, Councilman Fennell.
I'm just wondering what kind of date they're looking at as far as opening this place.
That's a hard question to answer right now. We're hoping to get started. We would like to get started within the next 4 to 8 weeks. Pending approvals, obviously, and we're also, part of the slowdown with the COVID is there's no sports on TV, which has greatly harmed the sports bar business. Even for family-friendly sports bars. So there's been a little bit of a slowdown on that end, but we're hoping that we can break ground in the very near future and would like to be open early in 2021.
There's some saying that he is starving to death and I'm thirsty.
Gotcha.
This has generated a lot. Hey, this has generated a lot of excitement in the community. I hear a lot of good comments about it, and I look forward to you guys opening up soon.
I appreciate those comments. We certainly look forward to being in Gallatin.
Well, obviously, this is not this is not an item we vote on tonight, but I think you've gotten a positive response from the planning commission. Everybody.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think there's a problem with y'all voting to confirm that you agree with the changes in the architecture. That'd be fine.
I so move.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilman Fennell. Oh, no, Dr. Orgain, and a second by Councilman Fennell.
That's right.
And the hungry ones.
Good. Then go ahead and take a roll call vote. I didn't know we voted under other business, but I stand corrected.
Chair Pereira.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson. Councilman Fennell.
Yes.
Dr. Orgain.
Yes.
Mr. Strouder.
Yes.
Ms. Hibler.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Good. Another item on other business is replat lot 644 and 645 of Fairview Plantation, Phase 8.
Yes, Commissioners, this is very similar to another item that you had on your consent agenda tonight. The applicant is wanting to combine 2 lots in the Fairview Plantation Phase 8 subdivision into a single lot. As you recall, earlier tonight, you approved a plat amendment which would allow the property owners to take 4 lots and replat them into 3 lots. This is just platting 2 lots into 1 lot. And this is a piece of property, or these 2 properties are on the south end of Phase 8 on the west side of Browns Lane, just north of the cart barn for the golf course there. So you can see how those lots are configured there along the west side of Browns Lane and how they relate to the rest of the lots in Phase 8. The applicant intends to develop a single structure, which I think they're going to or want to use for like an Airbnb type housing to entertain guests at the golf course. So instead of 2 homes, you would have 1 home, and it would probably not be, although it's not, there's no restriction against it, since we are governed by the state statute as far as Airbnb structures. But it would could be just a single home on there that someone would end up buying as well. So at this point, it just gives them a little more flexibility into placing a structure on the lot and be able to accommodate the guests that they have.
And Bill, I think you're referring to item number 5, which was under the consent agenda where we combine the lots over in Fairview.
Yes, that's the similar type of action. So this is essentially the same type of thing, and we're asking for your agreement with this, and if you want to take a motion, that would be fine too.
Motion to approve.
Oh, we have a motion to approve. Who made that?
I did.
Councilman Fennell.
Second.
Seconded by Albert.
Yes, sir.
All right. Any discussion? Mary Ann, if you'll take a roll call vote. All in favor of approval? Mary Ann, I think you're muted.
Sorry. Chair Pereira.
Aye.
Mr. Wilson. Councilman Fennell.
Yes.
Dr. Orgain,
Yes.
Mr. Strouder,
Aye.
Ms. Hibbler.
Yes.
Passes 6-0.
Very well. And the last item on the other business is item 12C, which is Ms. Vivian Huntsman. And on this item, I will recuse myself from the discussion. I'll just hang around for any announcements afterwards.
Vivian, I believe I've unmuted you if you want to address the board with your issue.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You have the floor.
Thank you. I'm asking that the board or the planning commission change the I'm not exactly sure the wording, the code for fence height for residential property that backs up to commercial. I live about a block off of Nashville Pike. The houses behind on Nashville Pike, 2 of the 3 houses behind me have become commercial, and third one is, if it's ever sold, will also be commercial. And I put in a fence that was 8 feet high, not knowing that was supposed to be 6 because it was residential. But I'm asking that you change that code so that if a resident backs onto a commercial property, they're allowed to put up a commercial fence behind their house.
Sounds like a great idea.
I think it makes a lot of sense to me.
Hey guys, this is Latisha Alexander, staff attorney. This is okay to discuss at this meeting, but this will not be a voting issue because you'll have to take this and give notice to the public that it's going before this body for a change in our code. So all you can do at this point in time is discuss this.
Can we make a motion? We need a motion to put it on the agenda for the work session.
Councilman Fennell, the staff would request a couple of weeks to confer with other departments and develop comprehensive regulations to the fencing requirements to word it the best that fits within the zoning ordinance rather than making a spot decision.
Okay, let's get it going.
I have one comment. I think we should have it flexible enough that the fence be high enough to protect the residents adjacent to the properties. And that could be using berms and other things other than just a fence. So be very open-minded and out of the box as you're looking at this.
Absolutely.
Can I make a comment that one of the businesses that's behind us was here before we moved out here, and they've put up bushes and some trees, but you can still get through there without a fence. You can still crawl under, go through the bushes and whatever to get out to, since we're just a block off Nashville Pike, that was the reason for the fence.
You know, we could put some
barrier. You need a permanent barrier.
Yes.
But I'm saying that we can study it and we can put some wordage in to protect the homeowner that orders the commercial property. Do something right there. You know, something to protect the homeowner.
Yeah, commissioners, I think in this case, it might be good for us at our next work session to describe the events that led up to this issue and to make sure everyone's well briefed on those things that we need to discuss, that we would want to provide some design options that could accommodate the desires and or the wishes of the planning commission and the property owners, as well as to ensure that some of the other issues that are involved in this particular case are also addressed.
Well, I think some of those have been resolved between the person who first complained about it. She's withdrawn her complaint.
Well, I mean, it's still a violation, and let me.
Right, understand.
So we'll be prepared to describe the details of the case and the other issues involved that don't necessarily result in the height issue as well. There are a few other things that we need to talk about. So, but eventually it will be a discussion item, and then it would come back to you, not at the work session, but at a meeting where you would vote on an amendment to the zoning ordinance to address certain circumstances where there's, for example, residential properties adjacent to commercial properties.
So tell her we got it covered.
Well, right now there is a case, a code enforcement case, and since y'all have agreed to move forward with possibly amending the code, we can suspend enforcement of that case at this point. I don't know if you were able to hear me. So we can suspend enforcement at this time until that code issue is resolved.
Yeah, my main thing is that a residential property that backs up or adjacent to commercial needs to have the right to do something right there. And whatever we got to do to move this thing forward and get in discussion, that's what I want to do. I guess our meeting's over.
That's all I have to say at this time.
Bill, do you have any announcements?
No, not at this time. I don't think so. Do be on the lookout, as we heard earlier tonight, for the preference survey that will be coming out. And I hope that each of you will be able to participate in that, as well as encourage your friends to also participate in that. That's going to be pretty important. So that'll be coming out here real soon. Probably well before our next meeting.
Well, with that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion adjourned. Y'all be careful.
Stand adjourned. Thank you.